Um, Anyone from last week, Chuck challenged us with acts of kindness, basically. And so I wanted to give just maybe one or two people an opportunity to share what was that like, what did you do, that sort of thing. We talk about this a lot. Teaching for teaching's sake doesn't do anything. Application changes lives. So we need to apply the teaching. So anyone want to just share a little bit about what they did? Go for it.
So what I did was I planted a kindness rock station in Bristol on the bike path where Mason Stern died. There's a memorial there, so I'm trying to start that as a kindness rock station. So what I did was I took a kitchen tile and I painted along the edges. It's actually part of the Bristol Kindness Rock Project, and I thought that was a good place to have a kindness rock station. So I painted along the edges. You never know when the right message at the right time will change someone's day, outlook, or life. And I painted a bunch of rocks and I put them there. And I waited and went to check, and someone added one, which was awesome. That's what they're supposed to do. And 3 were taken, so that was good. So I want this, I feel like I planted a seed. I want it to catch on. I want people to go there, take a rock, add a rock, because where there was great loss, we want joy to come out of it. His family named that spot Mason's Way, and I was thinking, what is Mason's Way? Mason's Way is love, innocence, joy, playing with friends, hugs, family time. That's Mason's Way. So we can live on in Mason's Way. So visit, it's at the corner of Papa Squash Road and the bike path in Bristol. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. Anyone else? In the next 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3.
So I work for the school department, and I have a little girl. Well, she's not little, she's 13, and she's from foster care. She keeps bouncing. And so I met her this year. I had to fill out paperwork with her, and she couldn't remember her foster mom's name, so it was just sad. But she doesn't have the money to get school supplies and stuff like that, so we needed a composition notebook for this certain subject. So I just grabbed one from home and wrote a little note inside and said, keep smiling, and just put it in her backpack with the highlighter that she needed as well. Just simple, but that was it.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow. I mean, I love I'll call it simplicity of that beauty. And sometimes, and I'll share some stories today that are, some of the big stories, but I really believe that someone's going to walk by that rock and it's going to make a difference. Someone's going to hurt themselves because they had no hope. And then they read a rock that says, you matter. You're loved. Or you get a notebook, and that child just reads that and knows that someone cares about them. And just think if we do that on a regular, I was telling Chuck, I said, Chuck, make sure you do that. He says, sometimes as teachers, we do the teaching, and then we kind of like, oh, I did the teaching. And I said, make sure you do your act of kindness. He writes back, you're supposed to do it every day, Sean. So I'm like, yeah, I know. But it's this idea, as Christ followers, we are, right? This idea of acts of kindness, it should just be part of our DNA. That was the point of what he was saying. But sometimes as a church, we want to promote that, and encourage that. And so thank you to those of you that took a risk and did that. Now I'm going to kind of go into this morning's teaching. I'm going to share with you our vision statements on our website. Some of you may have seen it. Some of you may not. Let's see. Put it on up there, Will. It's simply this. To be a community of people authentically living in response to God's invitation. To bring beauty, justice, and our love for God and others to the world. I want to ask you a question, and it's a rhetorical question, but it's meant to make you think. What would your community look like if God were in control? Think about that, like meaning God's ways. That song, that's why I just had them sing that one song. We had a couple other songs that maybe we'll get to at the end of the service, but I wanted that one song to kind of be the center stage, for you to really hold on to that. Because I think when you think about the big story of Scripture, right, it's a whole love story built on redemption. It's about bringing back that which was lost. And it's about being inclusive and loving and caring. And it's about fostering community. And when people find Christ, all of a sudden they find a purpose. And it goes beyond self, and it's about the other. And as we lean into that, then we discover God's goodness for ourselves. But it's as you live it out that you see God at work. And it's this mutual love relationship. It's this back and forth, right? It's not just God doing all these things. It's Him inspiring us and empowering us to step out of our comfort zone or out of our busyness or whatever, and to go into it and be the salt and light, be His hands and feet. Some of you heard that been said. So what would it look like in your community if God and His ways were permeating in your neighborhoods, in your families? Really hold on to that. Because as I look across the room, I can go, holy cow, in our own families. There's a lot of things going on right now in our church. There's a lot of hurt, a lot of sorrow, a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. And we need to figure out how to come around that so people can be healed and restored, so that they can extend that to other people. So the follow-up question is, what would it look like if you and those you're intentionally spending time with took the time to bring heaven to earth? Think about your relationships just for a minute. Just think about the people that you know that are in pain. If you're a school teacher, how many school teachers do we have? Raise your hand. Raise them up high just so I can see. Wow. So about 15-ish. Every day, that's a mission field. Every day you have an opportunity to plant seeds of kindness and goodness and hope and dignity and respect and challenge. You get to kind of send them off into like dreaming big. They think they don't even know what's possible, and then they have a teacher that believes in them, comes alongside them, says, you can do it. I believe in you. You can do it. You get to empower people every day. Don't take that lightly. There's a reason why you teach. There was a guy that I saw speak. Ian actually gave me the video, Ian and Ginny, and I think he was speaking at Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. And he's from California, and he's a really bad part of town. And he was challenging educators, basically. And think about being at Harvard, kind of influential institution. And so he was challenging people with this message saying, the level of teachers, he was really looking at the teachers, say, the level of your care and concern, like the song that says, go after that one, leave the 99 to go after the one, crash down that door, make sure that that kid knows that they're loved. It's like the level of how our society will move forward. No pressure, teachers, but you got a big responsibility. Think about that. His whole thing was, think about all the kids that are in our education system. And if the teachers would go beyond the classroom and give more of themselves and really invest in these kids so that these kids know they matter, that is a reflection of how our society will either thrive or suffer. Now, as he's teaching that, I'm saying, the church, you all represent the church. So when you go and teach, you're being the good news. You're being the church. That's why we talk about his values all the time and his principles and his ways. Because if they get into you, they'll get into your students. That's just one sector, right? I could go into the business sector, etc., right? Wherever you are, God wants you there so that you can plant seeds that is going to help form a community. we don't realize how blessed we are to live in a Judeo-Christian society because we see all the garbage through mass media. But the point is, we do live in a Judeo-Christian society. And I want to give you an example because this is very, very important. Because sometimes we take for granted that what we have. And I told you about my Friday night group from time to time. We do groups here. Just so you know, on October 7th, we're going to be doing another 4 to 6 week group opportunity. So that's an opportunity for you to get into a group with other people and learn together and stuff like that. So I'll do that with you guys. And I have people from the church and also people from the community that meet with me. And we were talking about this. And there was an assumption that if someone came up here and got hurt, the assumption is that everyone in this room would care and do something about it. And I said, well, that's awesome. I hope that we all would. I'm not sure that we would, but I hope that we would. And I think it was the marathon. I know Brian, is Brian here? Brian Scribner? Okay. So Brian has shared, in the Boston Marathon when the bombing happened, what that impact was. And that's kind of like the illustration that we were using, like how many people would run to that and make a difference. And I said, you know why? I think that's because we live in a Judeo-Christian society. And they push back. Oh, no. You always want to give credit to God, So give him credit for the bad stuff too, Sean, All right. So then we have this big dialogue. It's really fun. And I said, what about this? I said, I've run into other different people from different religious backgrounds. And let's just say you were in the Hindu faith. And you were in a Hindu nation, and a Hindu culture, where they believe in reincarnation. And they believe in karma. And they believe that what's going to happen to an individual is going to happen to an individual, and you don't want to interrupt that. In that belief society, they would not help. Because you'd be getting in the way of the whole formation thing. Because it just can keep coming back. Reincarnated, get reincarnated, get reincarnated. But you would not interfere with that. So I just throw that out for you to think, because when Jesus came on the scene, he came into a very, very barbaric society, and he flipped it upside down. When he was talking about being compassionate, that's not what they wanted to hear. They wanted to hear overthrow. Let us be empowered. Let us be in charge. And Jesus said, you want to be charged? The last will be shall first. The first shall be last. Lay down your life for another. Turn the other cheek. Go the extra mile. Very counterintuitive. So we follow a Jesus that's a trendsetter and saying, I want you to live a certain way that is going to be very, very difficult to do. So much so that I'm going to allow my son to die on a cross for you. So much so that I'm going to give you the Holy Spirit to empower you, because you can't possibly do this on your own. But when his people choose to do that, neighborhoods are changed. School systems are changed. Your community can be changed. And that's why this church exists. So that God can do a work in this community. So that you go back to your community. And bring this message, bring this good news wherever you go. I'm going to go back to this vision statement and break it down a little bit at a time, but Will, go to Luke 4. Luke 4, 18 and 19 says this. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Jesus is saying this is good news. So I'm going to challenge us this morning, because the very first part of this is what? He anointed us to proclaim good news to the poor. So as a church, as followers of Christ, when are we with the poor? When are we going out of our way to make sure that the poor know that they're cared for? The poor know that there's people that love them and care for them. This is what Jesus is saying is the good news. The followers of Christ are going to care for the less fortunate. How about the oppressed? We're going to set them free. People who are struggling in life, people who have difficulties struggling with anxiety or depression, things of that nature. We are the church. And that's when good news is realized. And I was thinking about like different little examples, and I was thinking Dawn and Chris are going to talk a little bit about balling this morning. And I was thinking, you know what good news is? When you read to a first grader. Because mom and dad are in and out of jail, perhaps, in and out of drug rehabs, perhaps. They don't have someone that's going to be there to read with them. And as a result, the stats show us that these kids aren't going to graduate high school. They're going to join a gang. They're going to be incarcerated. But Jesus says, you're going to go and set them free. You are. So when we talk about Baldwin, I say, take an hour, a couple hours of your time to go read with a student. The power of that is life transformation. And all it is, when I go there, I'm blown away, like by the simplicity of it. But how much joy I get out of seeing a young kid, like they to the point of, I'm sorry, you get me excited about this. But like, I'm going to keep going, I'm sorry. I'll be done quickly though. But like literally, I have to go through like the alphabet and you get to a B and I have to say, what letter is that? And half of them get it wrong. And I'm going to, no, B, B. Not a D, the B. And then they get it right the next time. As simple as going through the alphabet. But you have to understand, I'm not just teaching them the alphabet. What I'm doing is I'm hopefully providing an opportunity for them to learn how to read, to stay in school, to have a hope and a future. God doesn't just like ethereally do this. He's looking for a church to say yes. You don't even have to come up. Everyone's going to say yes. All right. That's not even right now. Okay. What's that? Sure.
Here we go. So back to that scripture about being the good news, because I think we really want to get this. Good news is when you spend time with students whose parents have abandoned them. When you have a meal with a person on the street. When you spend time with people who are often left out and overlooked. When you do simple acts of kindness. Where you share in people's pain. This is being Christ. This is being the church. And it's when our story, right? You know your story. Every single person has an individual story. It's when your story fits within God's story. That's when good news takes place. Where you say yes to do those types of things. And then Luke 19, 9 and 10. Says, Jesus said to them, today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. You're going to get this a lot this year about why Jesus came to earth. He came to seek and save the lost. So we have to do everything we can to be that light, to be that hope, for people that otherwise would not have that. And that's found in the person of Jesus Christ. Does anyone know what story these verses are taken from? What is it? Zacchaeus. And I don't want to listen to the teaching from one, but Zacchaeus was a little guy, right? He says he was a short little guy, and he's a tax collector. So I always envision Zacchaeus getting bullied as a kid. I do. I think that he got beat up and kicked up, and he got really rough and tough. And he ended up being a tax collector. He kind of like, oh yeah, I'll show you. And he became like this ruthless kind of guy, and was like just going after people that hated him. And I want you to think about that, because Jesus saw this little guy climbing up into a tree, trying to get his attention. And he said, Jesus said, I want to go over your house. And what I'd like to recognize is how many Zacchaeuses are in your life, and how often are you knocking on the door and going, I want to go over your house. I want to spend time with you. They don't look just right, and their story doesn't match up. And a lot of people are giving up on them. And a lot of times, they show the bottom of their shoulder. And God's waiting for us to show up so that they can see Jesus. That's the good news. What was the result of that story? Anyone know? Anyone know what the kids did after this meeting with Jesus? He gave back the money. So he was taking advantage of people. That's why I didn't like him. With one encounter with Jesus, seems like that. His life was changed because Jesus noticed it. Jesus hadn't done anything miraculous yet. I want you to get that. Jesus noticed it and wanted to be with him. We represent Jesus. We're followers of his way. When we notice people, miracles then happen. When we step into their lives, all of a sudden, Zacchaeus says, you know what? I'm going to give it all back. I'm going to pay it all forward, changing my life. And that's what we want to see happen in our surrounding communities. And that's the good news. What's that? What is it? Oh, great. So, don't want to. Let's go get Kristen. Yes, we go get Kristen. I'm going to start by setting this up. So, I read to you the mission statement, so hopefully you took a picture of that. Put it back up. It's on the website, and we can go through that another time as far as all those things, what they mean. But that's our why. But our strategy is a 6-phase strategy, and it starts with, just very quickly, the first one is the individual, the second one is church-wide, the third one is Highlander, which is this charter school, we team up with them. The fourth one is teaming up with local businesses to help them attach a cause. The fifth one is to start our own businesses, plural. And then the last one is a global strategy. And so the first one is the individual. So what do I mean by that? When I say that, I spend a lot of time prayerfully reflecting about how can we empower each of you. Every person that looks at Stone Coast and believes in our mission and vision and wants to be a participant with us, no matter where you're at in the spectrum, that if you want to do that, we want to come and support you. And so we believe that you are the church. So we want to empower you, inspire you, and equip you to go and live it out. Okay? So we spend a lot of time, how do we do that? So a lot of times on Sunday lunch, you'll hear me talking about it. Very intentional, the things we talk about. So I'm trying to equip you and inspire you to go and be the church. That's a big part of the strategy. Right? To get individuals, when they leave here, to go represent Christ in their neighborhoods and their workplaces, we are going to be spreading seeds all over the communities all around us. Okay? And this is what I believe happened with Kristen. Because coming through the relationship with Dawn and with all that, she found out what her passion was, what her purpose was. And she's now taking it, she's being with Dawn and saying, what else can we do here and there? So, there she is, Kristen, come on. So she's doing what I said, so she repeats us, just like, look, like the first time you ever heard of her. So, Kristen, I should show a little bit. But I'm talking about our individual strategy, about how my heart is to do what we can to help empower individuals so that they find that thing that they really love doing. And I imagine that the work that you've done at all the years, to me, reflects that this is the passion of yours and that now you give your life to it and you're going to kind of strategize as to what you can do. So,
okay. So, Dom and I met. I'm not using the whole microphone thing. I'm not used to being in front of all these people. Kids, yeah. So, I don't know all of what Shana shared, so I just wanted to tell you a little bit about how I ended up with Baldwin. I got to CCC, and Tom had shared, and Diane Stryker had shared about, hey, we have this school, could really use our help. I started because I really like being in the classroom, and if you don't know me, I'm a homeschooler. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get a classroom, and my classroom looks a lot like my kitchen. So, and also it was a place where Tom was like, yeah, if you want to bring your kids, yeah, that'd be great. And at the time, my son Jared was in 5th grade, their bedrooms and my kitchen. We kept coming back because the kids and the teachers are really on our hearts. So we live about 5 to 7 miles away from Baldwin, and we live in Lincoln. Very suburban, very middle class, and my daughter, before we homeschooled, had actually gone to public school. And, I know what it looks like. I taught in public school. And we were shocked when we got there, wow. There was a lot of less than that. Our big thing was, there's a very large special needs population. There's a very large English language learning population. And all of these things take money. So it's not like Pawtucket doesn't get the same amount of money or whatever that other school systems do. It's just they have so many more places that have to spend those resources on kids who need more. So there's a lot less to go around. And then, of course, being an inner city school, the reality is that they're not attracting the best and the brightest teachers. Those are the teachers that are getting scooped up by affluent communities. So it's not that these kids are less deserving. They're deserving of a great education as well. And these teachers are deserving of a great work environment. They just really don't have one. The other big thing we noticed was teachers, when we came in, they want a volunteer, but they don't really know what to do with them. Because many of you guys, how many of you volunteer in your own kids' classrooms? This is more people than you will see in the entire school of Baldwin parents volunteering. And there's 800 students. And there's 800 students there. For a variety of reasons, because both parents work, because it's a one-parent family, so everybody's working, because the parents themselves have school vocation that they have. So they're like, no, I'm not going in there because I don't want people to know that I'm not going to school myself. All of these things, so they aren't parent volunteers. So because of that, the teachers don't know what to do with parent volunteers. So Dawn and I talked about that even. And she's like, tell me about, when you first started there. And it was like going to a middle school dance where I'm encouraged to give me, and I'm like, I don't know where I should touch you, or did I step on your toe? Did you step on my toe? I don't know. And we're doing this awkward dance through the classroom for months. And we finally started hitting our jive about halfway through the first school year, where she's like, okay, I see some places I can go to. And I started offering some places like, hey, I see some places that I would love to work. And we would do things like little plays. And using, if you know the book Click Clack Move, or if you know The Mitten by Jan Grimes, so all the kids are reading it, they love, let's act it out. It was super fun. But over the years, she's let me have way more reign. She's like, as a homeschooler, I always want to bring in math and science because math and science are my jam. So I'm like, can I do stuff? And they didn't actually have a science curriculum that they were using at the time. They didn't have the money, they didn't have a curriculum, and they had no materials for it. And it's not actually mandated by the state of Rhode Island that you have to teach science. So they didn't have it. And it's just like, can you bring in some science stuff? Because the science stuff you can bring in is kind of cool. So I'm like, yeah, I can. So we would do things like, it's great about preparing earthworms and earthworms, and don't eat the earthworms, but you can eat the earthworms. And looking at caterpillars and watching them become butterflies, and we can bring this stuff that I love to do with my kids. I want every kid to have a chance to do things like this. Because it really, how amazing the world is. The world is so amazing, and I want these kids to feel that too. And then I have a lot of favorite books. And a lot of them have Miss Frizzle in them. So this is like what you start to see. Now I go in there and I feel like I'm a rock star. Because I have to walk through the cafeteria to get to our classroom. And if any of the kids that I've ever had, or like this year was my class that I was going to, were in there, but it's awesome. This is like the payback that you get. Payback is definitely in hugs and smiles and the sigh of relief when Mrs. Mendez, my classroom teacher, sees me come in, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. here, it's been such a bad day, it's only 10:30. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, can I go to the bathroom? I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh my God. So, it's all these little things. I'm not making great strides in test scores by coming in. I'm not making all these grandiose changes in these kids. But then there are these kids that really are huge on my heart. A couple of years ago, I had this little girl, and now my daughter's first grade. And she really didn't want to do anything. And I'm working one-on-one with her, and she's like, I don't even see the purpose of school. There's no need for my future. I could just, hang out on me, and I don't need to for that. And she's 6. And I'm like, somebody needs to be able to speak into her life and say, there's something different out there. And inspire her to the difference. Because, we're in a big classroom, there's like 2,500 kids and everything, and sometimes that one kid is not going to get someone to lead into their life because the teacher needs to speak to everybody. And they're not feeling like, this is personal to me, like you're speaking directly to me. Like, it's a lot of work, I don't want to think about her. So these are the reasons why I want to be there. And then why might you want to be there? Because maybe you feel called to it. Maybe you're like, oh, that's an interesting place, I kind of like to do that. It doesn't have to be in a classroom. It can be things like helping with projects around school, helping with making copies. Like maybe you're not into, you're the one reading this crystal. And my son's really huge in person. I have a Miss Crystal that has 2 Miss Crystal dresses. So I have to wear those, and he's like, can you not do this? I'm like, this is great. And he's like, this is not great. So he's like, I'm not coming today. Like, fine, whatever. I'm like, you can be with. If you don't know, that's a chameleon. So anyway, or the school, that's freaking school. No, he's not on board with that. But working with the teachers, even just being there, even like there were times where I felt like I was really not helping, just coming in and just like, I need to run a reading group, they're doing independent work, can you just walk around and make sure that their questions are answered, make sure that they stay on task, things like that. And I was like, I feel like I'm doing nothing because everybody's engaged in work. But it helps her because as soon as they aren't on task or have a question, even if it's only one, they're not interrupting her from actually getting something done. Or like my daughter would do extra hard activities with them. My son would correct spelling tests, or math tests, or cut out things. Any of those things, every little bit helps. And that's every little bit of help that they can have in it. So I know I'm probably talking over time, but I've got all these things that I wanted to say, and I'm not going to say them all, but So, like I said, I felt called to this because I really felt like, hey, I can make a difference there. It's up my alley. So I think part of what we're doing today is what's up your alley? What's a way that you can get? Because that's what we're called to do. Right? Each of these things are, things that have been modeled by God that are asking us, well, okay, I've given to you, now what are you going to do with it? So, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? My thing is, this is how I feel like I can show love, and then love can spread. And like I said, it may never be like, oh my gosh, look at these gigantic gains and test scores. No, I'm just spreading some love here. So, and those kinds of things are special.
So I just want to capture that for a second, because Kristen and I met earlier in the summer, and like she's just on fire for Baldwin. Kristen has been there 6 years. Four, going into her 5th. This is our 6th year there as partners. And she's worked with one particular teacher, helped her move, painted her apartment when she lost her husband. Brings her children there, does crazy science projects, as you've heard, She runs a Girl Scout troop at Baldwin School on Tuesday afternoons. And she took the initiative to pull together and work with the after-school program and the Girl Scouts of America program and put that together. Took some girls on a retreat last year. It's her calling. It's my calling too, but I'm not an educator. I'm not even really a kid person. So you know what I've done for the last 2 years? I've made copies. But you know what? When I walk in, that teacher is just as happy to see me. And I still get those little hugs on the side of the hips from kids. And there's so much that I hope and can see what could happen there. There's so much about it when I'm in the hallway, when I park my car in the neighborhood. It's different from my life, but it feels like home. It feels like where I'm supposed to be. And I want to encourage you, if any of this conversation sticks to you a little bit, if you find yourself thinking about it driving home, if you have a conversation about it, I encourage you to just shoot up a quick prayer and ask God, would you tap me on the shoulder? Would you make room in my life? It takes an hour a week. People have done this on their lunch hours. People can come after school if that's what happens, or before school if you're an early person. Any number of things can be done there, and every little bit goes such a long way. So, yes, we're not, I wish I could say, we were moving the meter on these big measurable things. And when I said that to Kristen earlier, she said exactly what you heard her say a moment ago, sort of in passing. You know what? Baldwin is a place to show love. That's what it is. And when she said that, it hit me really hard, I'd love to be able to say, look at what we've done, look at what's happened. Baldwin School is still ranked one of the lowest schools in the school district in the state of Rhode Island. But there are kids with smiles on their faces because we're there, and there are teachers that breathe a sigh of relief when we walk into the room, and God uses every little bit. And so we want to invite you, if you can make room in your schedule, if this sticks to you, come see one of us today. We're going to have an orientation meeting on the 23rd. Look at her with her little flyers.
Even if you just want more information, like maybe I don't have to run maybe we've not really get a clear signal from God there. Come to the orientation. Yeah, come here with us.
Come try it on the 23rd, 8:30.
That you all signed up for. We're going to have all those nice gifts and stuff. They're all activating, take pictures, and some lovely people are going to get them to come back to church. Next Sunday, we're on time. Alright, so, are you ready? Jesus, thank you so much for calling us to be the church and allowing us to be the church and bring good news wherever we go. So, continue to challenge us, inspire us, and lead us in such a way that we can be all